Most people don't realize this, but the human body is not waiting for another pill, another supplement, or another emergency fix. It's waiting for a chance to breathe, a chance to do what it was designed to do long before modern medicine existed. And the truth that shocks most people is this: medications can silence symptoms, but they cannot reawaken the deep intelligence that actually heals you. That intelligence lives inside your cells, inside your mitochondria, inside the ancient biology that your entire life has depended on. And the moment you stop eating for long enough, that intelligence switches back on, almost like flipping a breaker that has been off for years. Suddenly the body becomes alive again in a way most people have forgotten is even possible. I once met a man who had been living with joint pain for years. You know the story: a medicine for the swelling, another for the discomfort, another to protect the stomach from the first two. His mornings began with stiffness, and his nights ended with frustration. He believed there was something fundamentally broken in him. But nothing was broken. His body was overwhelmed. His system was inflamed. His cells were drowning in the constant tide of eating, digesting, snacking, processing, storing. His body had energy to survive, but not to repair. Then one day, he tried fasting, not as a punishment, not as starvation, but as a reset. A window of stillness for the body. And the strangest thing happened. The pain began to fade, not because something was added, but because something was finally allowed. You see, fasting does not introduce anything new to the body. It removes the constant load. And in that space, something extraordinary begins. Inflammation, the silent fire that destroys tissues and accelerates aging, starts to cool. Hormones that have been swinging wildly from constant food intake finally settle. Insulin drops, allowing fat to be burned instead of stored. And deep inside the cells, autophagy wakes up like a forgotten repair crew, sweeping out damaged proteins, cleaning up cellular waste, and restoring balance where chaos once lived. These are not small adjustments. These are root-level transformations. Medication cannot reach this place because medication cannot stand in for the body's own intelligence. It cannot replicate repair. It cannot create the harmony that your biology already knows how to perform with absolute precision. But here is the problem. Most people have been taught to think of healing as adding something, a tablet, a tonic, a treatment. They have never been shown that healing is often about subtraction. They have never been told that the body cannot heal in a constant state of digestion, that the bloodstream cannot quiet down when insulin is elevated all day, that the immune system cannot repair tissues when it is constantly chasing sugar spikes. And so they believe that their conditions are permanent, their energy will always be low, their cravings will always control them, and their weight will always fight them. They do not know they are living against their design. Fasting brings you back into alignment with that design. It reminds your cells how to function without the constant noise of eating. Think about how often we eat today compared to human history. Breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack, late night treat. The body never gets a break. No wonder modern medicine is overflowing with chronic conditions. We are living in a way that our physiology was never meant to handle. The digestive system runs non-stop. The pancreas never rests. Insulin remains elevated. Inflammation never turns off. And the repair systems, the very systems that keep us alive and youthful, remain locked behind a door that only fasting can open. When you stop eating for long enough, blood sugar begins to stabilize. Insulin retreats. Growth hormone rises. The nervous system shifts from panic to balance. Your energy becomes cleaner, steadier, more human. And something remarkable happens inside the mitochondria, the powerhouses of your cells. When they are not burdened by constant fuel excess, they become more efficient. They produce energy with less waste, less inflammation, and more clarity. This is why people say fasting sharpens their mind. This is why fasting brings calm to the body and focus to the brain. This is why fasting feels like remembering who you really are. But the most beautiful part is that fasting takes you to the root. It doesn't chase symptoms. It doesn't hide the discomfort under a chemical blanket. It allows the body to sort itself out from the inside. The immune system resets. The gut begins to repair its lining. The liver finally detoxifies instead of storing more fat. The hormones rediscover their natural rhythm. These are not external interventions. These are built-in healing mechanisms waiting for space to function. People don't heal through fasting because the fasting itself is magical. They heal because their biology is finally allowed to express itself fully. And yet, the world has convinced us that healing must be complicated, that it must be expensive, that it must come from outside of us. But fasting shows you something very different. Healing is simple. Healing is internal. Healing is biological truth, not pharmaceutical theory. The medications we rely on were never designed to fix the underlying problem. They were designed to control symptoms. And the longer we confuse symptom control with healing, the further we drift from understanding the incredible power our own bodies hold. You might think you have tried everything. You might believe you've been eating clean, exercising, doing the right things. But if you've never given your body the gift of time without food, time without incoming glucose, time without digestive stress, then you haven't yet allowed your biology to show you what it can really do. Most people have misunderstood healing for decades. They have been treating the noise, not the cause. They've been chasing relief instead of restoration. And fasting is the doorway back to the truth that has been inside you since the day you were born. Now, the moment you understand this, something shifts. You stop fearing hunger. You stop fearing the quiet. You stop fearing the absence of food. Because you realize that healing doesn't come from constantly feeding the body. It comes from giving it room to repair. And once you see that, you will never look at your health the same way again. Most people assume that healing begins when a medication enters the body, but the truth is that medications rarely go deeper than the surface. They can reduce pain, lower a number on a lab report, or suppress an uncomfortable symptom, yet they rarely touch the biology that created the problem in the first place. They act like turning down the volume on a fire alarm while the fire keeps burning quietly underneath. The reason is simple. Medications operate on the level of chemistry, while healing happens on the level of biology. And biology has rules. Cells have their own priorities, their own communication networks, and their own repair mechanisms. Unless those internal conditions change, nothing truly transforms. Fasting works differently because it doesn't force the body to do anything. It allows the body to go back to its default programming. Deep inside every cell, the mitochondria are constantly deciding how to use energy. When food is always available, mitochondria stay in storage mode. They accumulate, they conserve, they hold on. But when you fast, they switch to repair mode. They begin burning stored fat, cleaning up damaged components, and producing energy in a cleaner, more efficient way. No medication can instruct mitochondria to do this. Only the absence of constant fuel can trigger the shift. The immune system responds the same way. Chronic inflammation is not caused by a lack of drugs. It's caused by an overloaded environment inside the body. High insulin, high sugar, constant digestive stress, and damaged proteins that never get cleared out. Fasting interrupts that spiral. The moment insulin falls, inflammatory pathways begin to calm. Immune cells shift from attack mode to repair mode. The bloodstream becomes less hostile and more balanced. It's a transformation that cannot happen through chemical force. It only happens when the internal terrain changes. One of the most profound mechanisms awakened through fasting is autophagy. It is the body's own recycling system, a process so essential that without it, aging accelerates, inflammation rises, and cellular damage accumulates. Autophagy does not activate when the body is constantly digesting food. It only turns on during periods of nutritional quiet. Medications cannot mimic autophagy. They cannot dismantle damaged proteins or clear out dysfunctional cells. Only fasting communicates this message to the body: it is time to clean house. Even hormones respond not to added chemicals, but to the signals created by silence in the digestive tract. When fasting lowers insulin, the entire hormonal network realigns. Leptin becomes more accurate. growth hormone rises, cortisol stabilizes. The body goes from stress to steady, from reactive to intuitive. These are not effects you can purchase. They are effects you unlock. So when people say they have tried everything, pills, supplements, treatments, what they usually haven't tried is creating an internal environment where healing is even possible. Fasting is not about deprivation. It is about communication. It speaks directly to the machinery that keeps you alive, and it tells your body that the time for repair has finally arrived. The human body was built with remarkable self-repair systems, but most people never experience them fully because modern life keeps these systems locked away. Inside every organ and every cell, there are rhythms that know exactly when to repair, when to rest, and when to restore balance. Yet constant eating, constant stress, and constant hormonal noise interrupt these cycles. The body becomes overwhelmed, not because it is weak, but because it is never given the moment of silence it requires to heal. Inflammation is one example. It is supposed to be a short-term response, a controlled fire that solves a problem and then fades. But today, inflammation never turns off. Food arrives too often. Blood sugar keeps rising. Insulin keeps climbing. The immune system stays alert when it should be resting. Over time, the body is stuck in a low-grade inflammation loop without ever getting a break. Medications can blunt the pain or reduce the swelling, but they cannot reset the cycle because the fuel that keeps the inflammation alive is still entering the body all day long. Fasting interrupts that flow. When the digestive system goes quiet, the bloodstream stabilizes. The immune system finally exhales. The body no longer has to fight the constant incoming waves, and the fire begins to cool naturally. Hormonal misfiring works the same way. When food is always available, hormones that regulate hunger and satiety, like leptin and ghrelin, become confused. The brain stops hearing the signals correctly. You feel hungry when you're not, tired when you shouldn't be, and unsatisfied no matter how much you eat. Fasting sharpens these signals again. Without continuous glucose spikes, the hormonal network resets. The brain becomes more responsive. The body remembers its original rhythm. No medication can restore that clarity because hormones don't respond to chemical force, they respond to biological conditions. Insulin resistance is another silent problem. It builds up slowly, often without symptoms. Every time food enters the body, especially sugars and refined carbohydrates, insulin must rise to handle it. When this happens too often, the cells begin to ignore insulin's message. The body produces even more insulin in response, and a vicious cycle begins. Weight gain, cravings, fatigue, inflammation, all rooted in this disruption. Medications can lower blood sugar temporarily, but they cannot restore insulin sensitivity because the real issue is not low insulin or high insulin. It is overstimulation. Fasting gives insulin a chance to fall naturally. As insulin drops, receptors on the cells become sensitive again. The metabolic system recalibrates without external interference, and deep within the cells, there is debris that accumulates over time, broken proteins, damaged mitochondria, dysfunctional components that interfere with energy production. When eating is non-stop, the body has no reason to clear out the waste. It prioritizes digestion, not repair. Fasting changes that priority. When no food is coming in, the body turns inward. It begins to clean, recycle, and rebuild. Autophagy activates, sweeping out the old and making room for the new. This is a process no drug can recreate. It is purely biological, triggered only when the body senses a pause in nutrient intake. All of these systems, inflammation control, hormonal clarity, insulin balance, cellular cleanup, exist within you right now. They don't need to be created. They need to be given space. Fasting provides that space. It gives your biology time to breathe, time to repair, and time to remember what it was designed to do long before medications existed. In the first few hours of fasting, nothing dramatic seems to happen on the outside, but inside your body, a quiet shift begins. The last meal you ate is still being digested, and your bloodstream is still carrying glucose from it. Your body uses that glucose first because it is the easiest fuel. Insulin rises just enough to help move that glucose into your cells. This is the familiar state your body lives in most of the day. But as the hours pass and the glucose starts to run out, insulin begins to fall. That drop is the first spark of healing, the moment your biology starts changing direction. As you approach 8 to 12 hours without food, the body starts looking for a new fuel source. With glucose no longer available, it begins dipping into glycogen, the stored carbohydrate in your liver. This is when the metabolism starts waking up. The digestive system quiets down and the body's focus shifts. Instead of processing new food, it starts thinking about efficiency and balance. Medication cannot trigger this shift. Only the simple absence of incoming calories can tell your body to start working from reserves. Around 12 to 16 hours, something deeper happens. Insulin has fallen enough that fat burning switches on. Fat stored in your tissues biggie. NS breaking down into fatty acids, which your cells can use as fuel. The liver also starts producing ketones, a clean and efficient energy source for the brain. Many people notice mental clarity at this stage because ketones burn smoothly without the crashes that accompany sugar. This metabolic transition cannot be imitated by any pill because it requires lowering insulin naturally, something medication cannot force without side effects. As you move between 16 and 20 hours, autophagy begins to awaken. This is when the body finally turns inward. It starts inspecting the condition of your cells, searching for damaged proteins, faulty mitochondria, and accumulated waste. Think of it like opening the closet you haven't looked inside for years and realizing it's time to clean. Old fragments are broken down and recycled. Useful parts are reused. Harmful components are removed. No supplement can do this. Autophagy is an internal housekeeping system that only turns on when the digestive workload turns off. Approaching 24 hours, the cleanup becomes more organized. Immune cells become more efficient. Inflammation drops further because the body is no longer reacting to constant food intake. DNA repair accelerates. The body begins fixing small errors in the genetic code that naturally happen over time. These repairs keep cells young, functional, and resilient. Medications cannot trigger DNA repair, they can barely influence it. But fasting gives your cells the space and energy to prioritize it. Beyond this point, the body becomes even more metabolically intelligent. Growth hormone rises, preserving muscle while promoting fat breakdown. The liver becomes more efficient at filtering toxins. Damaged cells that cannot be repaired are marked for destruction. The immune system becomes sharper, more accurate, less reactive. Each hour without food deepens the internal restoration because the body is free from the constant cycle of digestion and storage. This entire sequence, from lowering insulin to switching fuel sources to activating autophagy to repairing DNA, depends on timing, internal signals, and metabolic shifts that only fasting can unlock. A pill can add a chemical. A pill can mute a symptom, but it cannot recreate a biological sequence that took millions of years to design. Healing is not something you swallow. It is something your body initiates when it finally has the chance. Most people don't realize how overwhelmed their bodies have become. The constant snacking, late-night eating, sugary drinks, and stress-driven cravings keep the digestive system working from morning until midnight. The body never gets a pause. Every bite requires insulin, digestive enzymes, absorption, storage, and cleanup. When this happens all day, every day, the system becomes overloaded. It's like running a machine without ever turning it off. Eventually, the parts heat up, slow down, and malfunction. This is how inflammation begins. The bloodstream becomes thick with glucose, insulin stays elevated, and the immune system responds as if there is a constant threat. Not because the body is broken, but because it is exhausted. High stress adds another layer. When you're stressed, cortisol rises. Cortisol tells the body to prepare for danger, which means storing more fat, raising blood sugar, and keeping the nervous system on alert. Combine that with frequent eating, and the body is stuck between two conflicting states, digesting food while trying to handle stress signals. These two cannot operate smoothly together. The result is hormonal confusion. Hunger signals become inaccurate, satiety signals fade, cravings intensify, and the brain stops recognizing what the body actually needs. Poor sleep tightens the trap even further. When you don't sleep deeply, leptin drops and ghrelin rises. You wake up feeling hungry even when your body has more than enough stored energy. Your metabolism slows down. The appetite becomes louder. And because most people eat late into the night, the digestive system continues working instead of resetting. Over time, this creates metabolic jam. The liver is overwhelmed with stored fat, the pancreas is strained from producing insulin non-stop, and the cells begin rejecting insulin's message altogether. This is how insulin resistance forms. Not suddenly, but through daily overload. Now imagine stacking all these stresses together: overeating, snacking, poor sleep, and stress. The body becomes inflamed, bloated, tired, and hormonally scattered. Medications can quiet the symptoms, the acid reflux, the blood pressure, the sugar spikes, but they cannot unload the burden causing the chaos. The load is the problem, and that is why fasting becomes such a powerful reset. The moment you stop eating, the digestive system turns off its constant engines. The pancreas finally rests. Insulin begins dropping, the bloodstream becomes calmer, the liver gets a break from storing more fuel and instead starts releasing it. Inflammation begins to ease because there is no incoming sugar to trigger immune responses. The hormonal network, once overwhelmed by food and stress signals, finally has space to recalibrate. Hunger hormones rebalance. Satiety signals sharpen. Cortisol gradually settles. Sleep becomes deeper because the body is not digesting late into the night. As the hours continue, the internal noise decreases even more. Without constant digestion, the body can redirect energy to repair tissues, detoxify the liver, clean up cellular debris, and restore metabolic flexibility. The systems that were jammed start functioning smoothly again. The brain becomes clearer, the gut becomes calmer, and the body feels lighter without adding anything external. Fasting removes the burden instead of adding another layer on top of it. And once that burden is lifted, the body remembers how to heal itself. Fasting has been part of human life far longer than any modern treatment. It is not a trend, not a diet, not a challenge to survive. It is woven into our biology. Our ancestors didn't fast because they wanted to, they fasted because life required it. Food was not always available, and the body adapted by creating intelligent systems that thrive during periods without eating. These systems still live inside us today. They activate repair, sharpen the mind, strengthen immunity, and restore balance. This is why fasting feels natural once you step into it. It aligns you with a rhythm that your biology has known for thousands of years. Modern eating habits, on the other hand, are the real interruption. Constant access to food is new. Endless snacking is new. Eating late into the night is new. Medication after medication to manage the consequences is new. And it shows. People feel inflamed, tired, foggy, and disconnected from their own bodies. Medications offer temporary relief. They can lower a number on a screen or silence a symptom, but they do not create resilience. They do not teach your cells how to function better. They simply place a cover over the discomfort. While the underlying imbalance continues to grow beneath the surface, fasting works at a deeper level because it doesn't add anything. It removes the noise. Once that noise is gone, the body's original programming begins to operate again. Insulin becomes stable. Metabolism becomes flexible. Hormones become clear. Inflammation quiets. Autophagy cleans and renews the cells. These are not temporary effects. They are fundamental shifts that improve how the body operates long term. This is why fasting doesn't just give relief. It gives restoration. It rebuilds from the inside out. People often wonder if fasting is sustainable, and the answer is yes, because the body was designed for it. You are not forcing yourself into an unnatural state. You are returning to a biological pattern that humans followed for almost all of history. The body responds with gratitude, not stress. Hunger becomes rhythmic instead of urgent. Energy becomes even instead of chaotic. You begin to experience a sense of freedom because your body no longer depends on constant eating to function. This freedom is not just metabolic, it's mental and emotional. You start trusting your body again. You stop fearing hunger. You stop feeling controlled by cravings. You realize that you carry your energy within you, not outside of you. Medication may help in moments of need, but it cannot give you this kind of relationship with your own physiology. It cannot teach your body how to heal. It can only create a temporary adjustment. Fasting teaches the body, restores the body, and strengthens the body. It gives you access to a form of healing that is active, intelligent, and deeply personal. It is timeless because the design behind it has never changed. And once you experience how your body responds, clearer mind, lighter digestion, calmer inflammation, steadier energy, you begin to see fasting not as an intervention, but as a lifelong tool. A tool that reconnects you with the wisdom built into your biology. A tool that keeps you aligned with the rhythms you were always meant to live by. A tool that offers clarity, resilience, and freedom long after the fast itself ends.